Ready?
Picture me rolling like Michelle Obama. You wanna be a star, I'm trying to be like my mama.
Welcome in Belgium.
Thank you.
You're here since yesterday?
Yes.
Did you get the chance to like see something or?
Well, we chilled most of the day. I was just telling Miss Yvette, actually I have all my wardrobe that I came from the States with. And so yesterday I spent like 2 hours packing like all of my wardrobe into my stuff because it's only 2 more shows left.
Okay.
And I just wanted to make sure I didn't need like an extra bag.
Yeah,
So nothing too fun.
So let's talk about your debut EP, Trill Feels.
Yes.
You quoted in a Billboard interview, I think, that honesty is the main vibration you wish people to resonate with on the album.
Absolutely.
Can you like elaborate on that while talking me through the album?
Yeah, so Trill Feels, you know, of course the title Trill comes from H-Town, comes from Houston.
It's a word that has been used now and claimed by everybody.
Yeah, for the record, it means true, real, and ill, you know, and so, you know, it was coined originally by UGK and Bun B and Pimp C. Well, one, you know, I'm a songwriter and a rap artist, and so when I started working on the EP, I really just went into a creative space, kind of transitioning from really focusing on songwriting for other artists. So the first part of the process for me was really just creating without any boundaries, and then the next step was kind of narrowing the records down and figuring out which songs are really meant for me personally. Because I always write from a personal place and a place of honesty, but you know, when you're writing for other artists, sometimes you get accustomed to writing on a more broad scale. So I wanted to make sure lyrically that my music was more focused and concentrated and more about me personally, if that makes sense. So the first track on the EP is called Double Pedigree, and it was actually a song that I released just as a teaser when we first made the announcement that I signed to Parkwood in December. We made the announcement, and we put it out for my birthday. It was a free track, and Double Pedigree kind of means, to me, it's a description of like the way that I grew up. My mother is a very classy woman, very clean cut, kind of conservative, and my father, very successful, but kind of from the streets, you know, and more of a street guy. And therefore, I've always been exposed to like these 2 different worlds, and I've always grown up in between these 2 different worlds of like very, very like by the book and then very like reckless, you know, and I've been exposed to both equally. And so my friends, there are a few of us in Houston who grew up together in similar scenarios, and we've always called ourselves double pedigrees because of that. And so that record is really just about me and who I am. It's one of my most direct songs on the project. And then the second song is called F.A.D, which stands for Fuck All Day, and it seems right now to be a fan favorite, which is really cool because on my previous projects I didn't really sing like on an entire song, you know. I would sing hooks here and there, but through the process of me being a songwriter and writing for other artists, I've had to demo out all of my own songs, and inadvertently my singing voice improved. And actually Beyonce, who's a great manager, she was the one that was like, you need to really take your singing more seriously and you know, incorporate this into your music, you know, don't just limit yourself to just rapping. So that's kind of exactly that's how F.A.D came about. You know, I was actually on vacation in Jamaica a couple summers ago, and that's where that song was conceived. So that the track was, my friend produced it, Kevin Roosevelt, and I already had the track but no lyrics or anything. And when I played it and I was going through my options, it just fit the vibe and the environment that I was in. And
it feels very current. It feels you can like, because I listened to it, and it's also going to be featured on my 22 tracks list.
Nice.
It's something that you can easily drop in.
That's
what
dope.
is going on right now, but it still has an identity.
Yeah, exactly. So F.A.D is really cool, especially because like I have kind of this like androgynous vibe, and people can't never really read me or figure out my sexuality. People are always very intrigued, and I think that a record like that surprises people who don't know me personally. They're like, oh, okay, she, you know, this is a different side of me that people, from what people are used to seeing. But it's very much so still true to who I am, you know, as a woman. So I think that record is important for that reason. And then after F.A.D is, I'm terrible. I'm like, I need to have the track list in front of me. F.A.D goes Thing Called Love, Love Me, and it's one of my personal favorite tracks on the project, simply because it's a 2-part song, and Thing Called Love is really about a relationship and the two different sides of it when you're first into a relationship and you're all in. And then the second half of it, Love Me, is when kind of like the reality comes in that like this relationship really isn't perfect. I'm putting myself out there, but the most important relationship here is the relationship I have with myself. And so ultimately that's what that two-part song is about. And in making a project, I think for all artists it's hard to narrow down the music, and so it was definitely a bit of a fight between the label and me, you know, friendly fight of course, but about how many tracks would be on there. Yeah. So I kind of cheated with that song, you know. Even when I created it, it's always been a two-part song, but I felt like it was really great because it allowed me to essentially kind of put 8 songs on a 7-track project, if that makes sense, with it being 2 parts, because it's really truly 2 different records, you know. And so then after Thing Called Love, Love Me, the next track is Coming Down, which is I spelled down. It's really coming down, but in Houston we say everything extremely country, and so all of our OWs sound like long eyes. And so I spelled it with the intent that you know, so people would pronounce it right. And so it's spelled coming D-I-N-E for that reason. And just like we say H-Town, and you'll see a lot of people write it as H-Time because that's how it sounds, you know. And so Coming Down is like it's an ode to Houston and where I'm from. It's a smoker song. I'm a big pothead. Everybody knows that if you listen to the music. So it's a cool record where you can just vibe and smoke, and it has one of my favorite all-time hip-hop artists, Devin the Dude, featured on it. He's like a legend down south especially. And it also has a more new rapper, Kurt Cobain's, he's from Houston as well, featured on it. So I thought it was cool. I haven't gotten to collaborate with any artists from Houston. I've worked only with Mike Dean. He's a producer from Houston on the songwriting side, but on my project I haven't gotten. That was the first time I got to like work with Houston artists, so that was really cool for me for that reason. And then after Coming Down is my single Flex, featuring 7 Streeter.
With the video.
Yes, with the video. And Flex was really awesome because it was kind of like an accidental song. I had this great big body of work around like a year ago, and I had just, like I said, just been recording, and you know, we were listening to the songs collectively and trying to figure out where to go with the project. And you know, it just felt like I needed that record that you can just play where I wasn't thinking too hard, you know. And I'm a big thinker, so everything, especially in lyrics, I always want to make sure they make sense and make sure I can give an explanation if someone asks me, you know. And so so when I made Flex, it was out of a place of frustration, honestly, and I was kind of being funny, you know. I was in LA. I had been working for like 3 days in the studio, and I kept getting stuck because I was like, man, I have all these great records, you know. So why would I keep trying to make more records? So I'm like, I'm gonna make a song about nothing. I guess I'm saying too much in these other songs, so I'm gonna make a just dumb song where, you know, it fits
I understand that intention. Okay, nothing.
Yeah.
Here you have nothing.
Right. And I'm like, you know, basically I just like, I'm not gonna think too hard about it, you know. And the producer who I work with, who worked on most of my project, his name is Hayes Banga. He's from California. He's incredible. I was at his studio, and we have a great chemistry creatively, and he played the track, and it already had the Flex sample in there, so the song kind of wrote itself for me after that. Like when he heard it, I immediately heard the cadence that I rapped in, which I kind of ripped a little bit from Pimp C, the smoking with the window. That's like an original Pimp C flow that a lot of people now emulate, but you know, I have to give credit where it's due. I was channeling my inner Pimp C with the cadence of that, and then it didn't have a hook. It just had the sample in there for about 3 months. I just lived with the record. I actually have a subwoofer in my Jeep in Houston, and so listening to it with no hook on it for so long, I'm like, what does the song need, you know? And I felt like it needed to be mellowed out just a little bit, you know, because I was rapping hard on it. It's got this hard sample in there, and I had a wish list of features that I wanted to have on it. And at the top of the list, it was like, I think Jasmine Sullivan. No cut to 7, of course, but I love Jasmine Sullivan. She's one of my favorite singers. And Erykah Badu was another wish list person. You know, I'm like, just, you know, my A&R, his name is Walt. He's amazing. He's just kind of like, just name names and then we'll see where we go. And then 7 was my choice after that. And honestly, you know, 7 is one of my favorite songwriters and artists as well. And so I bought her EP. I listened to it. True fan. So it's always important for me, if I'm going to collaborate with somebody, to really be a fan of their work. And God willing, out of everyone, we couldn't get anything back from the other 2. We didn't hear anything back, actually, but Walt was amazing. He reached out to 7's team, she heard the record immediately, and immediately agreed to be on it. And then we were like, oh, we actually kind of need it back in 72 hours.
Okay.
and
she did
it. And then a few days after that, she came to Houston and shot the video with us. So last minute, had never met her before. So it was a really special thing for me, you know. Now I made a friend, you know, in the process. So shout out to Seven. Fun is a record that I actually wrote a couple years ago as well, and it originally wasn't intended to be my song. I was submitting the song, and it was a skeleton, and it just was one of those songs that wouldn't go away. And I was like, you know what, this is every project I've ever done, even if it's a mixtape or something, I always have kind of an upbeat, fist pumping song with the kind of electro undertone, very musical, and I needed that in this project. This project was very slow, you know, tempo wise, pace wise, and so I said, you know, let's break it up and put something in there where people can dance. And in my show, it's always important that I have a record where I can bring the energy up. It's actually kind of funny. Cool story about that is my aunt. I was playing it for her last summer. I let her hear it, and she's like, "Who'd you write this about?" And it's like no one's ever asked me that about that song, and I actually did write it about somebody. So all of my lyrics, you know, the lyrics in front of, like, I tried to reach, I tried to preach, I just still couldn't get you back up on your feet. I told you once, I told you twice, to spread your wings and it could change your life. So it's an inspirational record, but it's like get up and move, like you know. And it was inspired, you know, one of my friends is kind of dragging his feet in life and inspired those lyrics or whatever. And so Fun is a special record for me as well for that reason. And that's again where the honesty comes from, and where the, you know, just having a personal story behind everything, even when it doesn't necessarily feel that way. And then the last track on the project is called Change Things, and it's produced by and featuring my all-time favorite songwriter and artist, James Fauntleroy.
Yeah, you are. I see it in all your interviews. You're extremely happy about that you have James.
Yeah, I love James.
But James is a very unique identity, so I completely understand that you're like, it's like a little pet peeve maybe.
Yeah, man. Yeah, like, it's crazy. I get kind of offended because a lot of people, you know, don't know his name when you say his name, and then I have to start singing his entire catalog or the Justin Timberlake albums or something, and they're like, oh, you know. And so it's been such a blessing. Beyonce personally actually introduced me to James.
Okay.
And he's inadvertently been a friend. He inadvertently became a friend in that process of us just being around each other and working, and kind of like a silent mentor as well. And so it's super special to be, again, able to work with, like, someone who literally, I was listening to his projects before I met him. I would listen to his projects every day. It's almost like I spoke him up into my life listening to his music.
You probably did.
Yeah, I mean, I was tweeting about his music, like, before people were even on Twitter like that. It's been about 4 years now. I tweeted about his music so much to the point where he followed me.
Okay.
And then 4 months after that,
That's
Beyonce introduced us, and he's like, wait, I think I follow her on Twitter.
Okay.
And she kept calling me Ingrid, and at the time, my name on the internet, people were just calling me IB. So he's like, is this the same person? And then when we met, he's like, oh, that's crazy, you know?
Okay,
so
that's cool.
So very genuine relationships, and because of that, I feel like the music came out, you know, in the best way possible when you have relationships like that. And James actually came in with 1500 and Nothing. That's his production squad, and they did post-production on the entire project for me last summer. And so all the instrumentation that's there, the live guitar,
it's all fine-tuned by him, basically.
It's all fine-tuned by and curated a little bit by James. Yeah. And
amazing.
you know, he didn't want any credit for that. He didn't want anything for it, really, you know, which is even more special. It's so awesome. That's why I always have to make a point to give credit where it's due.
From all of those 7 that you just elaborated on, which one do you feel in Europe that people resonate the most, just sonic-wise? Because at the end of the day, you're introducing yourself every time with Beyonce. So, and everybody is there for Beyonce. So you have to, like, leave some kind of impression. What track do you look at and say, oh, they like that? Yeah,
Fun is the one.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the one. That's like the epicenter of my performance. I do three tracks in my show. It's very quick, and I do Double Pedigree, Fun, and Flex. And so it's kind of like the singles that I released, and then Fun would be the follow-up, I guess. But it's really great because it's most of the people, of course, their first time hearing it. In every city, it's like, you know, their hands are up. You know, if I'm like dance, everybody's like jumping, and it's surreal for me, you know, just being completely a new artist. Even with my label mates, Chloe and Hallie, they have a little bit more exposure than I have, you know, and so it's
because
different.
Of the covers,
exactly.
And because of the YouTube exposure they've been building for themselves.
So it's great to be able to go and share the stage with them, and then of course Beyonce, and you know, get such great energy and feedback from everyone. I gotta say, I think even though you didn't ask me, I still feel like I should say Copenhagen, I think, had the best energy. Like,
okay.
Yeah, they were like the most lit crowd. And so it was very cool.
What are the blessings and the curse of having Beyonce as a manager? Because the blessings I kind of like can figure out. I still want to hear them. But of course, there must be something.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not talking personally. I'm really talking like
in general.
In general, what are the blessings and the curse to have Beyonce as your manager?
The blessings, of course, is she's Beyonce, and you know, she's more than what meets the eye, if that's even imaginable. You know, people always assume that she's this or that, but she pays attention to detail with everything that she does, not just her career. And so it's really humbling to have someone at her magnitude who knows what she knows, who's as talented as she is, who really gives authentic, direct feedback. That's a blessing across the board. I would say that the curse is the assumptions that are attached to being associated with her. Sometimes, especially being from Houston, and I can only speak from a personal standpoint, you know, people know my story, and they're like, a lot of people, I feel like, haven't necessarily gotten into my music or even given it a chance because they feel like, she just knows Beyonce from Houston, you know, and a lot, I've dealt with that for you. I mean, I've known her my entire life, you know, which is why I've kind of kept my career separate from her my entire life, you know.
Totally get it.
Yeah, and so so the fact that she signed me was awesome, and it's amazing. But I just wish, and I hope that, you know, as time goes by, that people, once the music starts getting out there more and more, that they realize, like, oh, like, she really just signed her because she's incredible, you know, and that's it, point blank, period. But she's a hard worker, and the number one thing is, like, when you're attached to someone like that, like, you cannot be humble, and you cannot not work hard. You know, you have to humble yourself, and you have to work hard. There's no way that I can, you know, be around her in any way and see the work that she puts in and not try to put the same amount of work in for myself, you know.
Yeah, so you feel a little bit of pressure?
A lot of bit of pressure.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
a lot of bit of pressure. It's good pressure, you know, but she's so great, you know, and she's so consistent. So that's the daily reminder for me, is like, you need to be at your best and you have to be consistent.
What is the challenge as a I'm gonna re-quote that because I know you don't like it. What's the challenge as a rapper in this day and age, in this industry, for you right now? The challenge.
Being a woman. Because I know you're gonna say being a female rapper, and I don't mind that term. It's true, you know.
But I thought it was interesting because I was like, she's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Why do we have to like segment it?
Yeah, exactly. A rapper's a rapper, right? Yeah. It's just, you know, we're rappers in general. I think we're expected to be a certain way, and then of course when I sit down and I speak with people, sometimes people give me the, you're so smart, or you're so articulate. You know, I've gotten, at least in America, I have to say, I've had the best interviews I've ever had since I've been in Europe. You guys are very great. And that's, you know, no disrespect to anyone I've interviewed with in America, but just the research that's done and everything is always different. And that's the frustration, I guess, you know, for me as an artist, especially being a human being first. It's like, yo, like, I have the same values that, you know, the average woman has, you know. It's like, I'm not that extremely different. The difference is, you know, I have a musical ear, but, you know, it's important that my values are always respected. You know, people are always shocked when I talk about human things, like the fact that, you know, my mom has passed from cancer. I just lost 2 aunts to cancer. I've had like a real life, you know, and if you don't have these experiences in life, there's nothing to talk about, you know. So I think that especially at this time right now, a lot of the songs that we're hearing are just sing-along songs, you know, and you can't necessarily make the lyrics out. Yeah, it's like, you don't even understand the lyrics, you know. It's like, I know I can't, so I can't imagine someone who's not even American trying to understand.
If you say you can't understand, and I don't feel so bad, and I don't understand everything Young Thug is saying.
I can't understand anything he's saying, literally. I can't even understand 50% of the stuff Future says, you know, and he's huge, you know, so it's like, and then when I do hear it, they're talking about drugs like every other line, and I don't do drugs, you know, so it's like, it's not interesting to me, you know, and I think that kids deserve to have something better to listen to and to attach themselves to, and I think that it's okay to be a positive example, and so if nothing else, go ahead.
So what makes a good rapper then?
I think a good rapper is someone who's articulate in their music, just as they are off stage, and someone who has clear lyrics that are both honest, direct, you know, and true to who they are, you know, because a lot of the stuff that's in these records just isn't true, you know, like the stuff that they talk about, these guys aren't doing all these drugs. If they were doing all these drugs, they wouldn't be able to stand up straight, you know. They just talk about it. It's a persona, and then they don't go really afterwards and explain that it's a persona. They just leave it out there for people to take in, and then you fuel other drug addicts, real drug addicts, you know.
Of the female rappers, do you resonate with that you can say like, yo, I really vibe with what she's doing on the current level? And who are the old school, the ones who came before you that you think are important to share with my audience? Like, yo, because of that person, I thought that I could do it as well.
Of course. Present day is hard because I don't really listen to any hip hop. I listen to country music. I'm a dork. But I'm aware, you know, of some of the new artists, and I think that I think Tink is great. I think there's a chick named Dreezy who's really great from Chicago. She can really spit. And then Rhapsody is really great. She actually just signed with Roc Nation a couple weeks ago. She was on Kendrick Lamar's album. She's been around for a long time and hasn't gotten the credit and attention she deserves. So I hope that with her being signed to Roc Nation that she gets more you know, notoriety from that. But yeah, I would say that's present day for me. And you know, at one point when I first moved to New York, I was listening to Jean Grey a lot. She was around for a minute, and I'm not sure exactly what she's up to right now.
She's a long-term Talib Kweli.
Exactly. And so she's kind of an OG, but still not as many people know of her, I feel like, as they should. And then past tense, I guess, or you know, Lauryn Hill is forever a legend. You know, she's one of my top inspirations, I would say. But I also was a huge Eve fan growing up. When in elementary school, I thought I was the brat, literally. Like, I don't know how many times I had the brat plaits and braids and stuff. Cool. So I love all of those artists.
And then my absolute final question. I think I understood it right, but you quoted that you grew up with Destiny's Child. Can you like explain it to me? Because that is like, not many people can say that. I'm obsessed with Destiny's Child.
Destiny's Child's awesome. So right, we all do. I grew up in Houston, literally one street over from the Knowles family. My mother was a real estate agent, and she's deceased now. She's best friends with Miss Tina, with Solange and Beyonce's mom. And so inadvertently we were raised together. Like Solange and I always joke and say like we didn't pick each other because our moms were friends and we were born 6 months apart. We were each other's like first friends.
It was sick.
So it's like we fight, you know, it's like real sisters, you know. And so, growing up, we were like I always say, but we were really like the annoying little sisters who were just around when they were running around on the bayou, as it's always been famously documented, running around singing and doing all their boot camp stuff. We were literally physically there, you know, and watching that. And so when we finally decided, you know, it was early on, we all knew that we wanted to be artists. But, you know, Matthew at the time was like, okay, well, you see what the older girls are doing. Y'all need to get to it, you know, go to vocal lessons, go run, go do this, go do that. And so it was great. You know, I would say that I learned, you know, a lot of what it really takes in the foundation, you know, that needs to be laid. I learned just from watching them and from watching Matthew. And, you know, I remember Girls' Time when it was a bunch of girls, and then, you know, them narrowing it down and just working out the kinks. And then obviously the transition when the group changed members and everything. And just watching that firsthand and being a part of the behind the scenes and, you know, nobody really knowing that, you know, just truly being a family friend. That's all that it was at that point. I just had the best front row seat ever to know the real truth.
That's
you know.
Nicely put. That's perfectly put. And I think in a later stadium of becoming an artist, I think it's such a blessing that you will be able to witness.
It was an incredible blessing because I wouldn't know half the stuff I know now, and I probably wouldn't be sitting here if I didn't get to see them doing what they were doing. They directly inspired me for sure. So
thank you so much for having this conversation.
Thank you.
It's really nice of you. I'm gonna take quickly some Polaroid pictures.
Awesome.